And welcome to the webinar. My name is J.R. Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from our candidates for City Council, and also the two positions that are running unopposed. Later on in the evening, we'll also be hearing from our sheriff's race. And to get this thing started, we want everybody to enjoy the webinar, take some notes, and just note that if you miss something, we will be reposting this webinar at a later date. At this time, I'd like to introduce our chairman of the board of the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce, Mr. John Hatch.
Good evening. My name is John Hatch, and I am the 2020-2021 chairman of the board of the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to the 2020 Buda Area Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. If you came here tonight expecting to see some of the responses or activities we have seen at the debates for president and vice president, you may be somewhat disappointed. There's a saying that all politics is local. That is certainly the case tonight. While people will be going to the polls next week to vote on national and statewide candidates, it is the people you will hear from tonight that will most likely impact your day-to-day life here in the city of Buda and Hays County. Tonight we have all of the candidates for mayor and Buda City Council, and we have both candidates for Hays County Sheriff. Tonight's moderators are two of our own. First is former chairman of the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Jay Heinrich. A veteran of these forums, he will explain the debate rules and time limits. Our other moderator tonight is our very own Dr. Sally Moser. She too is a member of the board of directors of the Chamber. Jay, Sally.
Thank you, John. It's an honor to be here to serve the citizens of Buda in this regard, and to be able to do this again is a real honor. Sally, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being here tonight as well.
Thank you, Jay. Good evening. It's an honor to be a part of this candidate forum, and on behalf of our business owners like myself and our surrounding neighbors, I would like to thank you for taking the time to be here with us. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to Mr. Hatch.
All right, to begin tonight's debate, we have the two candidates who are running unopposed for their positions. First elected to the City Council in 2016 and re-elected in 2019, Lee Urbanowski was chosen as Buda Mayor Pro Tem. Tonight, he is the sole candidate for mayor, and being unopposed, he will be the next mayor of Buda. We also have current Councilman Evan Turry. First elected in 2017, Mr. Turry was seeking his second term on the council, and having not drawn any challengers, he will be re-elected to the Buda City Council, single member district, place B. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. And now, Jay, if you will read the debate rules and format.
Thanks, John. So what we'll do tonight is we will treat Mr. Urbanowski and Mr. Turry as if they were sort of heads up, even though they're not. We'll ask them the same questions, the same three questions, and alternate who gets to go first for each one. Dr. Mosier and I will go back and forth and ask those questions. There'll be 3 minutes to answer uninterrupted. And if there are at any time a candidate may want to respond to something, just put your hand up, speak up a little bit, and we'll get you in. Time will be limited for that, though. If there aren't any questions moving forward, I'd like to ask Mr. Urbanowski to give his opening statement. Mr. Urbanowski, you have 3 minutes if you wish.
3 minutes. All right. All right. Thank you, Chamber. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Sally, JR, Jay, Sean. As you heard, my name is Lee Urbanowski. I am running unopposed for the mayor of the city of Buda. I am in my second term on council and currently the mayor pro tem. Buda resident for almost 20 years. I am the father of 4. I have 3 sons and a daughter. One out of college, past college. One in college. I have a son at Dahlstrom, and my daughter is at Elm Grove. My wife, Amy, works at Elm Grove. She is my wonderful campaign manager as well. My day job, I'm a director of operations for a specialty contractor. My entire career has been in construction and development. Like I said, I've been elected to city council twice and been on the council for 4 years. I'm proud of what we've done over the past 4 years. When I ran in 2016 initially, I had a very similar platform and priorities as I do now. Still focused on smart growth, quality of life for the residents of Buda, keeping our taxes low, and collaborating with our regional partners. Look forward to the opportunity to talk tonight and learn a lot about our other candidates running. So appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Lee. Now, Mr. Ture, you have the opportunity to give your open statement.
Thank you, Dr. Marger. Thank you also to Mr. Hatch, to Director Gonzalez, and you, Mr. Heinrich, as well. And I think happy birthday, but don't let that change any of the questions. Keep the hard ones coming. I expect it. I want it. So, although I'm going up against a tough opponent here, if we're going to go head to head with Mayor Pro Tem Urbanowski. Well, thank you for having me tonight. Thank you to the citizens for, effectively, as you mentioned, because I'm unopposed, being the single member District B counselor-elect. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of years to continue some work that we've started since I've been on for the last 3 years. Very briefly about me, yeah, I've been in Buda just over a decade now. I grew up in Lake Travis when it was still 3A and no good at football before any of this. I went to school at Cornell University in the far north, the cold north, and then I returned home. Been living in Buda, working as an engineer in the renewable space for over a decade now. Started a business here in Buda called Indie Energy with some colleagues 4 years ago. So I've been running Indie Energy and growing that business here in Buda for 4 years now. I have my wife Dahlia, 2 girls, and a son that came in December, and so we've laid down roots in Buda. I get asked a lot, why did you run on the first 3 years ago, and then why are you running again? And the really short answer, and if this is one of the questions, I'll go into more, but in short, we're here for the long haul. We've set up business here, we've set up family and community and neighbors here, and so if you're going to be here, we have a vested interest in making this as wonderful a place as we can make it. Similar to Mayor Pro Tem's comments, I'm pretty happy about the last few years and what we've done. I have to say a lot of that is standing on the shoulders of giants, and I can talk about some of the things that were put in motion for a long time that helped some of the things that we've gotten to do be on good footing. And really, we need to continue that and go a lot further. So there's more work to be done. But passing a tax rate at 34 cents, it is the best in the area by far. It's not even close for municipal tax rates in the areas around us. Kyle's at 52. Austin was at 44 cents and then went with a massive step up to 55 through a lot of the difficulty over this last 2020.
It's been 3 minutes,
over 2020.
Mr. Turner.
So I'll wrap it up there and I'll talk about a bit more, but we have more to do to make this a resilient place. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. I appreciate that. We'll now move on to our questioning. And like I mentioned before, we're just going to treat this like, for the sake of the conversation, Lee and Evan will go back and forth and answer a few questions for us now. So Lee, we'll start with you.
All right.
Communities across America, including Buda, have held rallies to protest police actions across the country and a lot of things dealing with racial inequality. There have been calls across our nation for police reform, including increasing mental health services. The city of Buda has been in the forefront of this by employing an officer that specializes in calls dealing with mental health. What is your message for those in our community that feel strongly about racial injustice and inequalities? What steps will you take to support local law enforcement while addressing these issues? And what are some issues that are important for the city of Buda in general when it comes to law enforcement?
All right, thank you for that question. First of all, we have increased the funding for the police department, I believe, every year that I've been involved with the budget. This year was not any different. We are very proud of the management and the leadership we have in the Buda Police Department. From a bigger standpoint, yes, I do believe there needs to be a national conversation about policing as a whole and the relationship between the police and many different communities. We have taken steps for mental health and to improve the mental health capacity within our department, and I hope to add more to that over the next coming years. But we are in very tight collaboration with our police department, and I'm proud of what they've been able to do. We have worked here recently to update the policy and the bylaws and the operation manual for our police department to address some of the chokeholds and some of the other items that you're seeing in the national news. And I'm proud of that. And not running against Evan, but I will say he had a very important role in pulling that to the agenda and bringing that conversation to council. But overall, like I said, I do believe there is a national conversation that needs to happen, and it's related to both. It's equal justice, but also the social inequalities. I think a lot of what you're seeing on the national level, it's not one world, I guess, is my kind of gist of all of this, is it's just not one world. Everyone does not have the same opportunities, and the sooner we realize that and take steps to correct that, better
Time's
off.
Thank you, Mr. Urbanowski. We'll move on to Evan. You may echo some of the things that Mr. Urbanowski said as you work closely with him on council on some of the things that he mentioned, but I wanted to give you an option here to also talk about that question, your message to the community that feels strongly about racial injustice and inequalities, and what will you do on the council to continue to support law enforcement in that regard?
Yeah, excellent question, and appreciate the opportunity to kind of expand it a bit. What I would say is, it started a bit with the resolution that we passed. That was a bit of making kind of a statement on what we as a council, this is what we're saying as the Buda City Council. We're saying that systemic racism does exist, that there are injustices that need to be worked on. We called out a few very specifically, and we've identified ways that, we've identified a lot of, I would say, the problems and calling those things out. But that's really just a first step. And like Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, one of the things that we've been working on is actually rewriting and changing some of the police manuals, some things around accountability between officers, ensuring that one officer, if they see something, is really obligated to bring these things up, and some other items that we've been talking about to really embed some of the things that can help us fight this systemic racism, so that everyone has an equitable opportunity. In terms of mental health and funding, I would say one of the really great aspects has been having Officer McNeil, Josh McNeil, who's a mental health officer, but a police officer with the Buda Police Department. And, one of the things that we track with him that I'm extremely happy about is follow-ups on mental health checkups. If we have somebody that has drug-related or suicide-related calls, he's working on follow-ups. And in my mind, as those increase for him, if we need more officers like that who split time and he covers regular officer duties, peacekeeping duties, as well as sometimes these other aspects that really helps the whole community, we may bring on more officers like that. And so we track those metrics. But I would say that's a key aspect of addressing what a lot of the national discussion has been around, as far as how do we help people not just keep the peace, but also everything related to it.
Thank you, Mr. Terry, for that response. I appreciate that. I'll pass it over to Dr. Mosier now.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, so now we're going to the next question, and I'm gonna start with Mr. Ture this time. The question regarding bonds. Voters have recently passed bonds to fund City Hall, police, and the library, also drainage and parks. Some of the projects are complete, but some, like City Park, have missed multiple deadlines. What is your take on how recent bond projects have gone in Buda, and is there anything you would like to change? Also, do you see a need for any bonds in the near future? That was
Evan,
for
Mr. Chair, we'll
Mr.
start with
Ture.
you.
Start with me on that one. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Apologies. Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Moser, for the question. There's a lot there. I'll try to keep it short and try to keep it within the two. I think there's been a lot of good aspects of how the bonds have been implemented from 2014. We've stayed under budget largely. We found other funding sources, and that was some of the delay on a few of the projects. Was we got really big outside funding to reduce the cost to the citizens, and then we took our savings and we actually worked to pay down the bond debt so that the impact of the bonds on the taxes would be lower. We did that with City Hall. We came in under budget. On the roads, we've been able to actually leverage that towards some additional projects like the Cabela's connector that were nice to haves at the time and are becoming a lot more important. So we were able to kind of get ahead on some of those. There's also been a lot of issues, and I need to own some of that. The Buda City Park, the main park, has been massively delayed, and that's been a source of very much frustration. A lot of our time concentrating on trying to fix it. There's some learnings on things I would go back and change from when we started the project, including not selecting the vendor that we went with to construct the park. We only got one bid. We went back out and got two. And I would say there was even more things that we should have done to solicit more bids, probably package some of the different bond projects to get a bigger package and go out for some better constructors. So we weren't in some of the issues we're in now, trying to get them to finish the project out. As far as new bonds, potentially. Transportation is tight in Buda, as is a surprise to nobody that is listening right now. And so we have quite a bit to do there. There's some projects we're moving on and sort of just regular normal funding, but there's also some bigger projects where we just need to go out to citizens with a bond and say, this is what we're thinking. If you agree, vote yes. But we're putting together some planning to see exactly the most critical projects, the cost for that, and get a good understanding of it. I do think there's probably some upcoming bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Ture. And the same question goes for Mr. Urbanowski. So what is your take on how recent bond projects have gone in Buda, and is there anything you would like to change? Yeah, also, do you see that any new bonds in the near future?
All right, to elaborate a little bit on what Mr. Ture said, the 2014 bonds, it is a little embarrassing to say 2014 bonds and we're still working on them. There are some highlights and some lowlights associated with that whole package. The park obviously is some difficulty with the contractor, but part of the park is also Garrison. We did buy the Garrison property very early on in this package, and that is another jewel that the city will develop and make into another feature for the city to use for everyone. The additional funding that Evan talked about was the TxDOT funding that came in for Main Street, which saved the citizens about $1 million. It did cause some delay and some redesign, but we did pick up $1 million in doing so. We've had some issues with the drainage projects with the railroad. If anyone's ever worked around or with the railroad department, they're kind of tough to work with, and our drainage project does go under the railroad. Moving forward though, I would say yes, we do have some future bond packages that are kind of in development. We've had agenda items on City Council talking about the development of a new bond package, kind of creating a bond committee, kind of like it was done back in 2013-14 when the last package was put out. Transportation is the primary focus of that. maybe looking at some stuff for Garrison, some park plans, some development of Garrison Park. Several big projects that are out there, but transportation being the focus. What we want to do differently this time around is kind of follow the school district motto to some degree and get some of the design work done up front. What we did in 2014, well, what was done in 2014, that even predates me, but we asked for the bond passed, then we started the design. What I would like to do, any future bond projects, is to try to get some of that bond design work done ahead of time before we are closer to a shovel-ready project once the voters do decide. That way you're not losing the steam and the excitement of, yay, I voted for this, we're gonna do it, and then you wait for a year or plus for the design process, the procurement, and all the steps that we went through on every different little project that we did during 2014.
Okay, thank you so much. Just as a follow-up now for each of you again, starting with Mr. Ture, as a city council member, how much of a priority for you will be to spend the money locally?
Specifically, the bond. Yeah, good note.
You have 1 minute, sorry.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. It is a priority as much as we can get a good deal out of it. And what I mean by that is, we put into our procurement essentially, even a 5% adder onto local bids. So if we can find a local contractor who is good at what they do, is qualified, and they're within 5%, even if they're a little bit more expensive, we work to do that locally. If it's more than that, I think that's kind of a bad deal for citizens. You don't get the net benefit because you're paying so much extra to try to work locally. As far as doing it as much as possible, I'd like to see it. We reach out to the folks that we know as soon as we know there's something coming up that's in their trade or can be provided by them. Eating locally, spending locally is a priority to my family. My wife and I did something soon after we got married and tried to eat all our food within a certain distance from our house.
Thank you, Mr.
There's
Terry.
ways to do that commercially as well.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Well, and same question to you, Mr. Urbanowski. How much of a priority do you put on spending locally?
It's a big deal. Obviously, a very, very big deal. Part of the process, you create a say a decision matrix. You create a matrix of kind of a point system. And what we had done before for City Park and some of the projects that I was involved in on the buyout is you put a 5-point, a 10-point adder to local businesses. But like Mr. Cherry said, that is within reason. I mean, we are a part of a very larger regional area. Buda, Kyle, Hayes as a whole, how far out do you consider local is always the question. But like I said, keeping local as much as possible, maybe that 5% rule that we've talked about and used in the past, but keeping in mind the best value for the citizens of Buda and the tax dollars, doing what we can with them.
Thank you. I wanted to stay local and talk a little bit about business now. I'll start with Mr. Urbanowski on this question. The city of Buda has sort of set a standard in terms of supporting local businesses during this pandemic. There has been a lot said about the work that council has done currently to help benefit our local businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. So my question to you will be, how will you continue, or as soon to be mayor, Mr. Urbanowski, what will you do to continue this supporting of our local businesses? And how can we ensure, or how can we do that while ensuring everyone's safety?
Jay, thank you for that question. People have asked me before, what are my what's my most proudest thing or the proudest thing that I've done for the city of Buda? And my go-to answer before this year has always been keeping taxes low, managing the budget the way that we've done. This year with the COVID whole process, I've added a new item to that, and the collaboration that we were able to do between the EDC and the city council to find $350,000 plus to give to our local businesses to get us through, or to help get us through. We still did lose several businesses through this disaster, but man, that's like I said, the single proudest thing that I've done while I'm on council is the collaboration, working with the EDC and the city together to put together a fund and help out these businesses that have struggled so terribly during this crisis. And going forward, your second part of that question is buying local. I mean, it's going to HEB and Buda, not going to HEB and Kyle. It's as simple as that. Well, like Evan talked about, trying to eat everything within the city. It's taking some pride in what we have here and patronizing these businesses here, of course. And again, reaching out with the EDC, which again I'm proud of, asking the businesses, what do you need? What the chamber's doing? Same approach. What can we do to make your life better, to encourage you to expand, to grow your business in Buda? It's vital for everyone.
Thank you, Lee. Same question to you, Mr. Turry. Supporting local businesses during this, being on council and being a part of that as it's happened recently, what will you do to continue to help support local businesses and keep them in the forefront to keep Buda prospering?
Yeah, completely agree with Mayor Pro Tem's comments on the stimulus, the Buda stimulus, Stay Beautiful, Still Beautiful package. I got to serve on the small business task force that put that together with Mr. Gonzalez and Miss Anderson from the EDC and Miss Lauren Middleton Pratt from the city. Fantastic other members as well to put together that package. It only helped as much as we could. Like Mayor Pro Tem said, we still lost some, and that's been that weighs on me. It's sad. There's folks that have put all they have, all they can into these businesses. So there's more to do. So I'm happy to some extent, but yeah, there's more to go. What I would say we need to continue to work on is the workforce building, good employees, talented employees that have what they need, the skills they need. And part of that is building a good business environment. So a lot of my priorities for the next 3 years are related to building a really firm sales tax base. We have that in some ways, but there's still more to go. It's helped us ride through this as a city and keep rates low, but attracting kind of the next type of businesses, tech businesses, and the type of folks that come with that. You need to do some work on workforce training and the capabilities, and then also infrastructure, good broadband, and things like this. So it's multifaceted, but related to getting good, strong, resilient, and long-lasting businesses that don't just pick up and move when they get a better deal from another city. Amazons are good, but there's other companies that have a lot more sort of loyalty, right, to their place and things like that. And so I want to look for and fight for businesses like that that are working here for decades.
Thank you, Mr. Turry. Appreciate that. A quick follow-up. You both mentioned the chamber on our you mentioned Mr. Gonzalez. Both of you mentioned Mr. Gonzalez earlier, and the chamber in some way. The chamber has been a part of a lot of discussions with the Buda City Council, the EDC, Main Street Advisory Board. What is your current view on the relationship with that the city of Buda has with the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce, and what will you do to ensure the continued development of that relationship? We'll go 1 minute on that one, and we'll start with Lee.
All right. In my view, so you have the city council, but you have the EDC. I think the EDC's goal is business development and bringing businesses to Buda. The chamber, which Jay and you and JR and John and everyone's done a great job. Your job is representing the current businesses and assisting the businesses, being the spokesperson for the current businesses. In order to do all of that effectively, we have to work together. At the last city council meeting, I have asked for an agenda item on the revising and updating the 2030 comprehensive plan. That's where everything starts from the top, working down to the strategic plan for the EDC and bringing in the chamber into those conversations. And I kind of used the term last night, tongue in cheek, but it's like, what does Buda want to be when they grow up? That's a decision. That's a conversation that we have to have collaboratively with the chamber, the EDC, and city council.
Thank you. And Mr. Turry, same question. What is your current view of the relationship the city of Buda has with the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce, and what do you do to ensure the continued development of this relationship?
Yeah, good question. Largely, I think it's gone well. I can think about some good collaborative efforts that have been put together when the city and the chamber has worked together, like that Still Beautiful package, and 1.0, 2.0, and then reopening. By the way, that's reopening. So business owners out there, go take a look and reapply. There's some expansion there. So with things like that, there has been very good collaboration. There are times when that sort of focus on getting certain things done has had some misses, where I would say that the chamber and the city either weren't in the same room for a conversation and driving toward the same goalposts. And so there needs to be some improvement there. There's places where the chamber needs to be brought in earlier, right? And there's, like Mayor Pro Tem said, in a lot of ways and directly, the chamber represents these businesses and what's going on with these businesses. So that is an invaluable input as we're making decisions on these things.
Thank you
So
very
there's a
much,
couple
Mr.
of places
Turner.
where
Thank
that's
you
been
very much.
dropped. We
Appreciate
can
it. We'll
improve
pass
that.
on to Dr. Mosher now.
Thank you so much. So we're now allowing time for closing statements, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Ture. Again, please make your closing statement. You have 1 minute for that.
Perfect. Well, I've gone long every time. I'll keep this one super short and just finish what I was saying. We have some places to improve that, bring in the chamber earlier. And then with closing, I'll just say thank you again. I work to make myself as available as possible to folks, citizens, business owners, etc. So please feel free to reach out. I like to be able to walk the land if you're talking about developing something or selling something or meeting to talk about these things, talk about your plans or ideas, and especially business owners, as you're thinking about opening something up, happy to provide some input and some ideas on how to get that done. We have a lot more good things to do here to make this a place that we all really enjoy eating, working, living, playing. And so thank you again to the chamber for putting this on. And I appreciate you inviting us, even if didn't draw an opponent this time.
And then it is time for Mr. Urbanowski. Your final statement, please. You have 1 minute as well.
I find myself on council doing this quite often. I want to repeat what Evan just said. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this and to talk tonight. I mean, my focus has always been smart growth. People are coming. We are in a sought after area, sought after community. They want to be here. We are on the I-35 corridor, close to Austin, not far from San Antonio. All of that is a reality that we have to embrace, and we have to be ready for the transportation, the infrastructure, the utilities, all the needs that come with that. That's looking forward. Like I said, I've been here almost 20 years and it's grown a lot, and I don't see anything changing, but preparing for the future is vital, and it's critical for us to keep looking ahead. And I want to thank Evan for coming back and joining us again for another 3 years. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Urbanowski and Councilman Turi, for sharing your vision for Buda. Up next will be the two candidates for Buda City Council Position 1 at large. Lavanya Horn-Williams is a 19-year resident of Buda and has served on several Buda boards and commissions, including most recently the Buda Economic Development Corporation Board, where she serves as treasurer. Matt Smith, a 40-year area resident, has also put in many hours volunteering on various boards and commissions, including Buda Parks and Recreation Commissioner and chair of the Buda Amphitheater. Thank you for being here tonight, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Horn-Williamson to please make her opening statement. Ms. Horn-Williams, I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you guys are putting this on tonight. We so appreciate the Chamber for taking the initiative and getting this done for us as candidates for City Council. So my name is Lavanya Horn-Williams. I'm a 19-year resident of Buda. We found Buda back in 2001, and we've been here ever since. We live here in Bradfield Village. We've raised our 5 children here and our 2 grandchildren. My children attended Buda Elementary School lower campus when it was open. So it's been quite some time that we've enjoyed living in this community. Currently, I work as a procurement director out in San Antonio. And one of the things that I'm excited about being able to offer as an added value being on City Council, should I be elected, is to be able to help work with CIP projects to make sure that we are looking for fiscal responsibility as we're working on those projects and ensuring that they get completed on time and on budget. I also bring experience working with the Texas Department of Transportation. I've worked in contract management there for heavy highway construction projects. And so I understand what that process looks like from the beginning of the design phase and moving all the way through until construction, and then your actual closeout of all of those contracts and projects. So I'm looking to add that portion of my experience to being on council and being able to offer those types of very important conversations. I'm sorry, that timer just kind of threw me off. Being able to offer those important value adds to City Council. So again, Lavanya Horn-Williams, living here in Bradfield Village. Hope you'll stop by and see me this weekend. We'll be out campaigning until early voting begins next week. Have a good day.
Thank you, Lavonia. Okay, so now Mr. Smith, you have an opportunity to give an opening statement.
Thank you, Dr. Moser. Thank you, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hatch, Mr. Gonzalez. I really appreciate the opportunity this evening. This forum that you guys have organized, this is just great to get the message out to Buda, so thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name is Matt Smith. I'm born and raised in Texas. I grew up right up the street in Manchac. Like was mentioned earlier before, I'm an area resident for over 40 years. I made the decision to move to Buda in 2012 and raise my family here. I bring my experience in community organization, financial planning, and leadership to the city of Buda. I'm a graduate of the Buda Citizens Academy. I am a current Parks and Recreation Commissioner. I was also selected by the mayor to chair the Buda City Park and Amphitheater Committee. I am also a member of the Baylor Scott and White Buda Development Advisory Board. And you'll also find me volunteering in many different ways in our local community. I'm a youth sports coach. I volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. And, you know, upon arrival 8 years ago, I started organizing community events right here in my neighborhood in Whispering Hollow. From the day I got here, meeting neighbors, bringing neighbors together, holding events, caught the eye of the HOA board here, ended up putting on community events for 3 years straight with the Whispering Hollow HOA, and again, just bringing the community together. My wife and I do have 2 young children that are, Gavin is 8 and Hudson is 5, and they both attend Elm Grove Elementary School right here near the neighborhood. And, you know, my vision for the future is really just managing the growth while preserving Buda's small town charm. And bringing Buda businesses and families together in a collaborative nature, and really just keeping the future of Buda in mind, and doing everything we can to support the community and bring the community together. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt, for joining us. Mr. Smith, I should say, Ms. Horn-Williams, I appreciate you as well. We're going to start, Ms. Horn-Williams, with you. I'm going to dive into the same sort of law enforcement question we led off with Mr. Urbanowski and Mr. Turi. There have been rallies, including here in Buda, to protest police actions, racial inequality, racial injustice in our country. The city of Buda has been out in front of this with their police force and are obviously very proud of that. But what is your message for those that feel strongly about that? What steps would you take to, if elected, to take to support law enforcement while still being able to take the things seriously that everybody is so concerned about. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So being a longtime resident here in Buda, we initially did not have a police department. So Chief Kidd came on board back in 2010, and he has built the police department and has run that police department through the entire past 10 years. And so he has built in a culture of responsible and community policing. So Buda doesn't necessarily have some of the same issues, unfortunately, that we're seeing across the country. But I would say that after having a conversation with Chief Kidd, that he is a proponent for accountability for police officers. We are here to support our police officers. We're here to provide them with the tools and the essential things that they need to do their jobs. But we also understand that the culture that we set here in our city, that our police officers are adhering to that, and they've got the leadership in Chief Kidd and our city manager and our city council that supports them through any difficult situations that they run up against. Again, hiring the mental health officer was a very smart move on the city's part and the chief's part, and I am here to absolutely support our police officers as they go out there to do their jobs and to ensure that they're doing their jobs safely and that they're accountable for any actions that don't fall within the culture that the chief has set at the police department.
Thank you very much for that answer. Mr. Smith, we'll move to you and ask the same question with as much, the feelings are very strong. Ms. Horn-Williams touched on that. How will you support the citizens of Buda and the feelings that they have about the racial injustices going on, and still support the law enforcement here in town and continue to deal with issues that are important to the citizens of Buda, Mr. Smith? And we'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Heinrich. And I appreciate the question. You know, I think the very first thing that we need to do is acknowledge that, you know, the racial injustices do exist across the nation. And, you know, focusing on diversity and inclusion in our communities is key. And so first is acknowledgement, and then celebrating the differences that we have, but creating an environment where everyone should feel included and equal. Now, when it drills down to Buda specifically, I just have the utmost respect and confidence for Chief Kidd, serving along with him on the city park, you know, amphitheater committee, his concern for the citizens' well-being and safety, and some of the measures that he took as soon as, you know, it really became a national conversation, which again needs to happen. You know, it's very important to address head on, and that's exactly what Chief did with his force. He held open forums. He reviewed policies and procedures. It's an ongoing matter. It's an ongoing matter of review, and you know, focuses on training as well. And our force is so well trained. Again, under Chief Kidd's leadership, that, you know, to the point that was made earlier, it's really, we don't see that, you know, the issue here locally as much. And so we really do just need to express our appreciation every chance that we get. You will not find me, you know, even really discussing any, you know, defunding of Chief Kidd's police force. You will not. If anything, we increased his force, the city did, from 26 to 27 officers with this latest budget that was passed. The mental health officer is key in addressing, you know, some of the softer, you know, nonviolent, if you will, circumstances out in our community. But again, you will not find me having a conversation about reallocating funds away from Chief Kidd's force.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Smith. Appreciate it. We'll pass it on to Dr. Moser for the next question.
Thank you so much for both of you. Okay, we're going to start again with Mr. Smith. The second question, going back to bonds. Some of the projects have been completed, and some of them have missed multiple deadlines, like the city park. What would you like to change about that? And do you see the need of any new bonds for the future? And also, just to get ahead of the game, a priority to keep it local.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for the question. And many lessons learned from the projects that we've seen under this previous bond program. I will say I am fiscally conservative, and it really comes down to needs versus wants in my mind. And so I feel like the city got what they wanted in the last bond package, right? We got a new municipal building. We got, a big influx of parkland, a number of things. And now I think, especially with the economic environment that we find ourselves in, the unknowns with the virus and the unknown economic impact that is still yet to be felt, we need to focus on the needs more so than anything. So, I'm a parks guy, obviously. I love our downtown park. I cannot wait to get the keys to the downtown park. I think a lesson learned from that park is, and Mayor-elect mentioned this earlier, Urbanowski, that, the planning phase is going into the park. The shutting down of the park before we were even ready to break ground on the improvements took it away from the community. So, lessons learned there. Don't take it offline until we're actually ready for the improvements. But I think we're good on parks, and I'm a parks guy. I think we need to focus on, connecting our parks and making Buda the walkable, bikeable Buda that I know that the citizens could benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Lavonia, now the same question goes for you. Regarding the delay on some of the projects, the bonds, or any ideas of new bonds for the city and keeping it local.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Dr. Mosier. First of all, being a procurement person and a contracting person, the delays that are occurring at City Park are definitely one of those painstaking things for me to watch as a citizen from afar. I could think of so many things that we may have been able to offer as suggestions going into this project. And again, when you put out these solicitations and you only get one response back, then maybe there's something dealing with the scope of work, or maybe with some type of an incentive that you could put into that package to be able to draw in additional contractors so that you have a much better choice. In addition to that, to help avoid having as many delays coming towards the end of the project when you're wanting to actually finish it out, maybe one of the things we could have thought about was putting in a performance bond, so that at that point, anytime that they have exceeded the number of days that you need them to complete that project, you have some way of financially being able to recuperate your taxpayer dollars that you're expending with the overruns for that project. With regards to some of the other things that we've got going on in the city that the bond paid for, we got that $55 million bond back in 2014, and we've got our new municipal facility, we've got Garrison Park. So now some of the other things that we need to look at is partnering and figuring out how to fix our infrastructure and making sure that we've got all of our drainage projects and things of that nature put together. In addition to that, looking again at the connectivity with projects that we have in the city and making sure that we're getting our parks connected, getting our streets connected, and allowing people to move through our city with ease. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Wanted to touch a little bit on the business side of things. We've discussed a lot about where we discussed with the unopposed candidates about the COVID relief that the City of Buda has been able to provide, and the support that we've been able to give our businesses here in town. That's really something that the council should be proud of. I want to stay around in the business realm of things though, and let me see who we're starting with this time. We're going to start with we'll start with Ms. Horn-Williams on this one. I wanted to ask you, with all of the success that we've had and even fought through some of this during this pandemic, do you believe that Buda has a reputation of being business friendly? And how can you help on the council? How will you help to make sure we're creating that, giving off that vibe, I guess, as a city to continue to attract these great businesses? And we'll give you 2 minutes to answer.
Thank you very much. That's a great question. That's actually one of the questions that, as a board of director with the EDC, that we're looking at very closely, is how do we streamline processes that allow new businesses to come into Buda without a lot of heartache, without being a barrier to creating opportunities for businesses to come here. So if I were on city council, one of the things I'd want to do is to open up that relationship to stakeholders that can help provide us options and strategies to create a streamlined process, whether it be our permitting process, whether it be creating expedited permitting processes for businesses that we are trying to attract and that the EDC is partnering with the city to provide incentives to be able to attract, and to be able to combine all of that with creating workforce development. So we want to bring in businesses, not just because of the economics, but also because it has something to offer to the citizens here as well. And we're wanting our citizens not only to live here and eat local, but we also would love for them to work local. And then we could eliminate some of our transportation issues where people are having to sit in traffic for long periods of time, or everybody has to leave the city to work. So looking at being a collaborator and a relationship builder with council and the EDC, and bringing in the chamber as well on how we can get strategies together to streamline those processes to be more business friendly.
Thank you so much. Mr. Smith, same question there. I mean, Buda's brought a lot of big businesses into town recently. It's really booming, and the EDC has done a nice job of sort of guiding that. As a councilman, what will you do to help aid the reputation that Buda has as being business friendly, if you do believe that Buda is business friendly?
So in dealing with the business community, working with the chamber, speaking to business owners in the community, we have an amazing chamber that works well within itself. What we need to do is improve collaboration with the city, improve collaboration with the EDC, improve collaboration with the Main Street program. And you know, I think some of the examples that you can see of collaboration come in two forms. We have a new committee around the mobile vendors and giving those folks a voice and how they interact with the existing community, business community. And then also, you know, bringing together folks from all different backgrounds with all different political views that have all different types of businesses into the same room, getting them to work together for the betterment of the community. That's the type of environment that I've created with the City Park Amphitheater Ad Hoc Committee, and that's what I'll look to further create within the business community. Now, you mentioned, is Buda business friendly? I think there are three major things that we can focus on going forward, and that is the proper land development. We need to drive the land development to provide us with more commercially driven corridors so our businesses can thrive and be accessible, and we can move around and have clients and customers come from one business to the next and do all of their shopping and their business right here in Buda. We also need improvement in our technology space. I've spoken with so many small business owners that have been quarantined in their home and trying to do business from their homes, and they just don't have the bandwidth. And if we're going to attract those higher paying technology driven jobs here in Buda, we really have to look at our technology infrastructure. The last bit that I'll leave you with is tourism. Buda is a destination that people want to come to. We need those outside dollars spent here by those tourists. We need to attract them in town to our crown jewels that are Garrison Park, that are our parks, that is the amphitheater and our Main Street, and all the over 1,400 businesses that we have here in town. We need to be proud of what we have. Show it off. People want to come here. It's just we need to be ambassadors and welcome them in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you for that answer. Dr. Mosier?
Okay, we're now allowing some time for you guys closing statements, and we are going to start with Mr. Smith. You have 2 minutes.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Moser. Thank you all. This has been wonderful, and I must say, you know, we have really seen an increase in community involvement recently in Buda. It was not too long ago that we had unopposed races and folks just showing up and walking in and leading the city. And at one point in time, I believe there was even an open city council seat. So, you know, it's things like this, it's getting the word out, and it's holding forums. And I just feel very proud of our city right now for having folks step up, come forward and lean in, be here, be present, be engaged. I also, you know, just want to make sure that when you know, I'm interacting with folks, I like to convey the message that, look, I'm not a career politician. I have my day job. I mentioned that I'm in financial services, and I really do just want to make the best and most use out of our backyard that we possibly can. you know, the future in Buda is bright. But it's what we do now. We're really at a turning point right now. I believe it was Mayor-elect Urbanowski earlier that mentioned, you know, if you equate it to a life, you know, we are now in our essentially our teenage years. We're growing out of those toddler and children years and really growing up as a city. And it's the plans that we lay now and what we lay down now that will pave the future for a successful Buda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now it is your turn, Mrs. Lavonia.
Thank you, Dr. Mosier. I just want to say in closing, this has been a really great experience. I so appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules at the Chamber to put this event together. And I appreciate the citizens of Buda. Again, like I said before, my husband and I, we got lost. That's how we found Buda. And once we found it, we've been here ever since. We love this town. I have dedicated time volunteering in this town. My children grew up here. You probably know them all, Martin Horn, Lauren Horn, and Marlo Horn. And they still live here and come local and hang out with friends and do a lot of fun things here in Buda. So I am asking for your vote. I'm asking that you vote Lavanya for Buda. As my opponent said, we both care very much about this town. We care very much about representing you and doing the very best we can to make Buda as beautiful as it possibly can be. So thank you all so much, and have a great night.
That's awesome, folks. Isn't it great, some of the candidates that we have and the talent that we have in this town? Thank you, Lavanya and Matt, for your comments. Up next, we will have the two candidates for the Buda City Council, position 2, the at-large position. Bobby Lane served on the Buda City Council for 17 years. During that time, he served as councilman, mayor pro tem, and mayor. Monica Davidson is a Buda native and is a small business owner here in Buda. She has also served on various boards and commissions, including vice chair of the Buda Economic Development Corporation Board and as member of the Hayes Education Foundation. So thank you both for your service, and we look forward to hearing you tonight. All right, Jay, back to you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. We'd like to welcome Mr. Lane and Ms. Davidson to the forum. We want to start with Mr. Lane, if we can. Mr. Lane, to make your opening statement here, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I just want to thank the Chamber and the city and all the citizens for attending this and being able to hear our comments tonight. First of all, I'd like to share that grew up in South Austin for all my life until I moved to Pflugerville, and grew up out there seeing it grow from a town of 800 to over 11,000. So I saw growth there. I got involved in city activities there, and then we found our way to Buda in 1995. So we've been here 25 years now. 3 kids have grown up, 5 grandkids have grown. 2 of my children live here. One of my sons is with the Buda Fire Department. Also just gave my 17 years to the council and to the city to help this town grow from about 2,000 to over 14,000 when I left. So I do have, my heart is here. I have a lot of interest in seeing Buda succeed, and wanted to come back and give another time to the citizens of Buda and to show what we can do as a council and to move forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lane. Appreciate that. And now we'll ask Ms. Davidson. Monica, would you like to come on and make your opening statement? You have 2 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again, all the members of the Buda Chamber who have put this opportunity together. While COVID has made it difficult to do meet and greets, I think everyone's done a great job of trying to get information out there and let the public know who their candidates are. So again, I'm a resident of my entire life here. My children are being raised 4th generation Buda. I have 3 children, 2 older boys, 12 and 10, and a 2.5-year-old daughter. I have now owned my 3rd business here in Buda, so I am a local business owner. I have a huge passion for my city. You'll find me out socially. I love talking to all the businesses. I love getting information and feedback from them on how they want to see us develop. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for city council is my roots run deep here. I'm committed to this city. It's hard, you'd be hard pressed to find people that I don't know or that I'm not aware of. and my commitment to small businesses and our smart growth came through with our sitting on the Economic Development Corporation. And also I sit on the board for the Hayes Education Foundation. I'm a huge supporter of public school systems here as well. As a graduate of Hayes High School, I'm very proud of where we come from and where we're trying to take our town.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Thank you both for your opening statements. I'll go ahead and keep the mic here and we'll move into our first question. We'll start with you, Ms. Davidson. We'll start you two candidates off the same way we started off the other duos, I should say, dealing with law enforcement. It's a hot topic right now, as you know. Many of the other candidates have mentioned that Buda maybe doesn't have as big of an issue locally, but there are still many citizens that feel very strongly about racial inequalities and injustices in our country and in our state in general. But Ms. Davidson, how would you go about on the council? How would you go about supporting those citizens while still continuing to support law enforcement and support all the issues that the citizens of Buda find important? And we'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you. So yes, Buda has been quite a treasure in that we have the ability to kind of stay in our little bubble just south of Austin and watching the big city and the pains that they're going through, as well as on a national level. We cannot put our heads in the sand that these things will not happen here or that they're not already happening here. To say that we can stay a small town and not identify where the social injustices are is really naive. It will spill over here. And I think that, again, growing up here, not starting with the police department, but relying on our sheriff's department, you know, Chief Kidd, I've watched him the last decade build a department that we are very proud of. I know many of the police officers personally, and I'm proud of what they've been able to do. It is on their minds every day of our actions that we take in terms of supporting them, therefore supporting the community. I've had many people reach out to me and ask me, listen, if you're planning on defunding our police department or not supporting them, you don't get my vote. I have no intentions of not supporting our police department. Again, I know many of them personally, and their passion for this city and to keep us safe and to keep us connected is top priority for them. And I applaud Chief Kidd and everything that he's done in this community to move us forward, to be out in the community. He's very accessible. I watch him at many events that support the community, but you'll see our police officers out there as well. And so again, they have every ounce of my support in continuing to provide the services and giving them what they need to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. And Mr. Lane, same question to you. Supporting law enforcement locally is key, obviously, as Ms. Davidson mentioned. What will you do to support citizens that have these feelings in our community, and how will you continue to support, or how will you support law enforcement if you're on council again?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's a long time coming, but I was mayor under general law and mayor under home rule when we had the Buda Patrol and then started the Buda Police Department. Much as Ms. Davidson said, 10 years ago, we started the department. But in that 10 years, as the town has grown, so has the department grown. And I think the city has been very aware of the need to support the police department. And not only that, but to support training for the officers. Officers received numerous hours of training each year, especially in how to handle, different types of clients that they reach on the highways and in the homes. We've also added now a second mental health officer to help with that part of the police department. And just recently, we attempted to have a Buda Citizens Police Academy that cranked up. And then when COVID hit, we had to kind of put the brakes on that. But out of that police academy, the thoughts came that we need another way to support the police department. And that was the initiation of what we now call the Buda Police Foundation. I've been asked to serve as president of that foundation. And this will be a unit that will be able to raise funds to help the police department with unfunded needs that they see arise. We'll be working with city leaders and also with Chief Kidd to identify the needs that they have and to help fund those needs through different fundraising activities through the foundation. So I would say that we have one of the star leaders in the nation as far as Chief Kidd goes, and he sets the tone at the top for how the rest of the department handles issues in the community, as well as other areas of the department through detective work and traffic work and mental health work.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Okay, our next question will start with you again. The question will be regarding infrastructure. Do you have any ideas for new infrastructure since Buda is such a fast-growing community?
Well, one of the things that I was involved in prior to stepping down in 2017 was securing a third source of fresh water for the city. That will be coming through the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer. We are one of, I think, 4 cities that are participating in that effort to bring additional sources of water here. Also, before I left in 2017, we were in the midst of designing the third expansion of the wastewater treatment plant to ensure that we can facilitate new development coming into Buda. And then also through the roads projects that we initiated back with the bond package. I don't think we're there yet. We need to continue to work on improving our roads. We need to continue to build relationships in order to get the Robert S. Light bypass through over to 1626. We have one leg of that done with Robert S. Light now, ending at 967, but yet we need to continue on over to 1626. That would take an enormous amount of traffic out of downtown Buda and further facilitate the citizens that live locally to be able to transfer from the west side to the east side. Other infrastructure, we need to ensure that our drainage is in place. One of the things I'd like to see get done in my term, if elected, would be to work with the Buda Fire Department to ensure that we can get the drainage set for their facility so they can go ahead and build a new training facility and a new office facility at their current site on 2770. Those items have been in discussion for a number of years, but now I think it's time to take action and get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. The second question goes for you, Mrs. Davison, regarding infrastructure. Do you have any ideas for infrastructure in Buda, which is such a fast-growing community?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Moser, for the question. So what I've had the benefit of doing is being able to meet largely with the large landholders that are our stakeholders here that hold the keys to some of the valuable land that we are going to need to further develop our infrastructure. Our roads do need a lot of help. We have grown so fast. We've not been able to keep up with all of that. And part of what I hear from our community quite often is, you know, the traffic congestion. And I can't get through downtown Buda. When are the roads coming? I can't get to my school on time, you know, coming home from work. So the traffic has gotten to a point where when you're sitting at the light for 20 minutes in downtown Buda, that's pretty big. So working with those key stakeholders and understanding how can we help them develop their property, bringing in their input for a larger transportation plan. And then watching where we develop and what we develop. Several subdivisions have come online that are meeting with our community, looking for feedback from our city council, looking for approval, that are large communities that are going to put a big stress on the roads that we have now. So again, trying to get another access point from 967 north into South Austin. The Robert S. Light extension over to 1626 will help get the more of the heavier industrial vehicles off those roads and allow some of that congestion to free up through downtown Buda. I would like to see another access point though headed north. The folks coming off of Mopac trying to get across to Sunfield cause a lot of that backup in downtown Buda at certain times. So if we can work with a lot of those key stakeholders that hold that land, then I think we'll be doing ourselves a big favor to relieve that congestion.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Appreciate that. We'll move on to our final question, or at least our final line of questioning for you two candidates here. We'll start with Ms. Davidson. We've heard discussion tonight about how business friendly Buda is, or is it maybe at times with I know some people have worked very hard to try to make it as easy as possible for businesses to come through there, but there still seem to be some issues lying there. So on council, what would you do to ensure that Buda continues to, or what would you do to help ensure that Buda continues to draw businesses here and hopefully keep that reputation as Buda friendly? I mean, excuse me, Buda friendly too, but also business friendly.
Sure. Thanks for that question, Jay. So again, this is something that I'm very passionate about, being a small business owner here as well. When I now sitting on the Economic Development Corporation, again, I've had the benefit of being able to see not only at a 40,000 foot high perspective, but also down to the minutia of how we work with our businesses. But building that gap into City Council, now that we have the ability with City Council members on our EDC board, so there's no loss of time, loss of effort, and that loss of communication as to what are the businesses doing, what do they need. I've heard many times that we're difficult to work with. I think a lot of it comes down to communication and not understanding what each department does and how we can work together. I've watched where we've worked independently in silos. Part of my campaign is about educating not only the citizens, but businesses, and being able to navigate through those processes and how to get here. There's oftentimes I'm out and about and people are asking me, how do I get this done? This is what I have. This is a dream I have for my businesses. How can you help me? And again, it's a lack of understanding. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to ask, which department that is, or they're getting conflicting information. So part of my role is bridging that gap, not only as a business owner, to bring that feedback back to our city council, our Economic Development Corporation, and our chamber, and how we all work to streamline that process and give these folks the ability to go to one place and say, how do I get this going? I think that's an invaluable role. Me being a business owner here and getting all of that feedback from our community, because I want to see our current businesses grow, not just bringing in new business, but that retention and expansion of our small businesses that are already devoted and loyal to Buda.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Moving over to Mr. Lane, same sort of question, Bobby. Will, Buda has been able to attract many big businesses over the recent years, and that's council working with EDC, with the Main Street Advisory Board, and in a growing way also in recent years the chamber. So how would you continue to allow how would you allow Buda to continue to appear business friendly and attract those businesses, and like Ms. Davidson touched on, to keep the ones happy that are here in town?
Well, Jay, thank you for the question. But years ago, we started the Buda Main Street program, and that was an effort to help businesses improve their facades and improve some of their infrastructure to make it inviting to people to come downtown to the small businesses and shop, eat, dine, just hang out, have community. So my goal would be to continue that type of program and to also work with the landlords, the owners of the facilities, to help improve, because I know we have the issue with Helen's Causality that burned. There's a building there that could be reconstructed, but I think it would be nice to have the EDC, the chamber, and the city all work together to move to help improve what we have in downtown. Also, we need to look at how we can invite the businesses that will benefit our citizens. We have a lot of restaurants, but we don't have a lot of other service industries that can be there when our citizens need certain types of products. So it's like, my big thing is, let's build relationships not only with existing businesses, but bring existing and new businesses to the table to talk about how they can all work together with the city, with the chamber, with the EDC to help build this community into a strong economic engine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lane. Okay, so we're going now to the closing statement for each of you, and we're going to start with Mrs. Davidson. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Sally. Again, I'm just proud to have the opportunity to be on this forum right now. It's not something that I woke up as a little girl and said I wanted to be on city council, but as I've watched my city grow, as I've built my businesses here, as I've raised my family here, my commitment has grown stronger and stronger. I want to see Buda not just grow up, but grow up smart, not just be bigger, but be better. Therefore, the Monica is Buda campaign. I truly love our city. I want to see our businesses thrive, and not just the ones sitting on Main Street. Butte is much bigger than that. You know, our west side's growing, east side as well. You know, we all have to work together, and it becomes an education to our citizens in how they can do their part, as well as what they can do to help themselves in building what we want to see here in Buda.
Thank you so much.
I saw the time.
Now, Mr. Lane, it's your time for your closing statement. 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. I do want to say thank you for this opportunity. It's been a while since I've participated in a forum, but I was looking forward to it. It's nice to work along with Ms. Davidson and hear her comments, very positive for the city. I likewise have a lot vested here and spent 17 years on the council. I spent time with EDC. I spent time with other functions within the city, just to ensure that, you know, I'm an auditor by trade, and I like for things to be held accountable. I like for people and ideas and movements to be held accountable for what they do, and for the taxpayers to get the best they can for the money that they put into the city. And at this time, I just thank the citizens that have supported me in the past 17 years and look forward, if elected, to serve them another 3 years. And just like Ms. Davidson said, just want to see Buda grow right and grow smart. I was here when we brought in a number of subdivisions such as Whispering Hollow, Garlic Creek, Cullen Country, Creekside Village, all of those entities. And now we're seeing the fruits of that labor as Buda continues to mature and grow. And much
Time.
Thank you, JR.
All right. Well, folks, thank you, Ms. Davidson and Mayor Lane, for being here.
Absolutely.
That concludes our Buda City Council mayoral and council candidate portion of the forum. Up next will be our candidates for Hays County Sheriff. Gary Cutler is a native Texan and is the current sheriff of Hays County. Prior to that, he served with the Travis County and Williamson County Sheriff's Office and 6 years with the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. He is the Republican nominee currently seeking re-election. Alex Villalobos is a current member of the Kyle City Council and also serves as the Chief of Staff and Emergency Management Coordinator for Hays County. He is a current member of the Capital Area Council of Governments Homeland Security Task Force. He is the Democratic Party nominee for sheriff. Gentlemen, thank you for your service, and we look forward to your comments tonight. Back to you, Jay.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate that. Mr. Cutler, Sheriff Cutler, Mr. Villalobos, thank you both for joining us tonight. Wanted to go ahead and, Mr. Cutler, ask you to make your opening remarks here, and you have 2 minutes.
In Buda, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this forum tonight. I really appreciate it. I'm Gary Cutler, your Hays County Sheriff. I've been in law enforcement for the past 46 consecutive years. The last 10 as your sheriff. I've got a degree in criminal justice from Sam Houston State University and a master's certificate from TCO, the state licensing agency. But you know, when I got elected sheriff, after all the experience I had to look at it different, because when you take the position of sheriff, you got to look at it as administrator. It's exactly what I did. You are a sheriff, but you are an administrator. My budget is $46 million of taxpayers' money. I have 430 employees. about 420 inmates, and millions of dollars of county assets that I'm responsible for. So I had to come to you as a sheriff, but also as administrator. And I've been successful as administrating that budget the past 10 years. And so I'm looking forward to serving another 4 years as your sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler. Mr. Villalobos, thanks for being here. We'll give you 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Again, my name is Alex Villalobos, and I'm a Democratic candidate for Hays County Sheriff. I'm currently your acting Hays County Chief of Staff, your Emergency Management Coordinator, an elected city official with the City of Kyle, over 14 years of law enforcement experience. We are transitioning from a rural to an urban county. I will bring leadership that prepares this department for the future and build teams that will create community. I see a need to modernize our approach to law enforcement, training that prepares our staff for the current environment, equipment that provides the highest probability of success in the jail and in the field. Create robust recruitment and retention programs that we have so that we can have access to high quality candidates coming in. We have UTSA, we have St. Edwards, we have Texas State University, and we have many different regional training academies that we can pull from. I want to create modern specialized units that provide support to local and regional law enforcement agencies, such things as cyber investigations and technical investigations that bring in that candidate pool and specialized units. Leaders have the capacity to make an impact for growth and change, and I'm running to bring that change that serves our community to their best interest. You know, the sheriff talks about creating the budget and managing that budget. I helped create that budget that he has been able to take on. I have ensured that we have provided on the proposed budget frontline equipment and frontline vehicles. They still have yet to receive some of those vehicles out into the front line, and I feel terrible that the front line has not been supported as they needed to be supported. I find it difficult as someone coming from the front line, understanding what it's like to be out in the front line, not having everything that I need to do my job appropriately. I can tell you as sheriff, I will prioritize the budget appropriately and make sure that the front line is taken care of before my command staff is riding around in newer pieces of vehicle or utilizing new technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. Appreciate that. We're going, Mr. Cutler, I'll ask you, for the citizens of Hays County, what will you continue to do as sheriff to ensure that everybody feels safe and that those that have those strong feelings about racial inequalities and injustices that they're being heard and that their concerns are being taken care of?
We're very fortunate in Hays County. We do not have a problem with racial issues. And so I would keep it running that way. I would have an open door to talk to the public or any event they would like for us to talk about any racial inequalities. But right now, we're not faced with that. Even with a large university there, we have not been faced with that. If there's training involved, well, I would do training because we have a licensed training academy. I would be glad to train if we need to add classes or courses to this training for officers for sensitivity or racial profiling, anything like that. So we do take those classes. But we're fortunate in Hays County. I know Austin to the north of us has issues, but we don't have those issues in Hays County. But you've got to work with your people. I have a great relationship with my people. My officers have a great relationship on the front lines. Our investigators, I couldn't be more prouder of the men and women in the Sheriff's Department and how we deal with the public. I get unbelievable emails and calls about our response to the public out there. I will continue that as your sheriff. I've proven that for the past 10 years, and I will continue to prove that.
Good evening, Mr. Cutler. So the next question will be, in your mind, what does it take to be a sheriff of Hays County?
First and foremost, experience. You got to have experience in all areas of the county. It's my 46 years, 40 of those years have been working in county government. I'm retired from Travis County Sheriff's Department, where I was responsible as a captain up there for a number of years. I worked in every area of the Travis County Sheriff's Department, 1,200 employees there when I left. So you've got to have the experience, and I have that experience. So that's why I mentioned a while ago about being a good administrator. So you bring experience to the table. I worked in the jail. My opponent has no experience working in a jail. I started my career in the jail. I've been a supervisor in the jail for 10 years, which has been an issue in Hays County because of growth. So you got to have experience in that area, and I have that experience to do that. So I'm looking forward to 4 more years, but you got to have experience.
We'll move on. Sheriff Cutler, I wanted to ask you, there's in the news recently in Hays County, there's been talk about outsourcing inmates and things of that nature. How important is it, and how will you, are there steps that you feel like we can take to lessen the populations of our jail, or is that something that has been in the forefront for you recently? How do you address like the sort of the population of our jail, and is there anything you feel like we could do to maybe lessen that?
That's a really good question. Thank you. The jail has been an issue in Hays County. Our current jail that I'm operating under now is 30 years old, over 30 years old. Sheriffs long before me had to deal with the crowded issue in the jail. When I took office in 2010, I made adjustments in my jail because of my past experience, and we were able to discontinue outsourcing for a number of years. However, we knew the day was going to come, we were going to have to start outsourcing again, and it did come in July of 2014. What did we do? I worked with the Commissioner's Court, and we went to you, the voters of Hays County, for a bond, a public safety bond of $106.4 million. $65.1 million that was for an expansion of the Hays County Jail renovation, along with a new maintenance shop and a training academy right there. We're only weeks away from the completion of that. We're adding 192 general population beds. So these inmates that we've outsourced, we're going to start bringing them back, and as well as the tax dollars that we're paying to outsource them. So I'm looking forward to that day. It's a state-of-the-art facility, and we're excited about getting into it. When I was right after taking office, there's a code of criminal procedure. There's a law in there called cite and release. You can write a ticket to someone and they have to show up at a later time to answer for the charges. There's only 7 categories of crime that fall in that. I implemented that within 6 weeks of taking office in 2010. Now then, today we're working on cite and divert. That's a program too I'm working with the other chiefs in the district attorney's office. It will basically be ran out of the district attorney's office, where an officer can write someone a ticket and he'll go to the district attorney's office to make a disposition on it, but he will not be arrested. He will not be booked about it. He goes to the DA's office. So that's programs we're working. And so stuff like that, we continue to work to keep our jail numbers down. But remember, as a sheriff, I have no control over who's booked in from the other departments. I have no control. I mean, if it's Kyle, Buda, San Marcos Police Department, DPS, they bring them to our jail. I cannot control them. So we have to put these programs in place, and we're working on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff Cutler. And looks like we have Mr. Villalobos next. So I'm gonna go to Dr. Moser and let her ask her question to Mr. Villalobos.
Okay, Mr. Villalobos. So in your mind, what does it take to be a sheriff of Hays County?
Well, I believe it's someone that has the qualifications, someone that has a qualification such as mine. And I have a BS degree and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in public administration, someone that has experience in law enforcement. I have over 14 years of experience. I've been all to some of the largest accredited law enforcement training academies that there are, and have had certificates there. I have a master peace officer certification and an honorable license and status. Someone that has created community engagement programs throughout their career, that understands that the community is much larger than certain areas within your community. Someone that understands that your organization needs to represent the community that it serves. Someone that understands that you provide those opportunities there. Someone that understands that policy assessments to understand the some of the unknown implications of policies that promote or the idea of racial profiling or putting someone with many barriers through their life. Someone that understands that experience, someone that understands and knows how to assess those policies and update those policies to modern day law enforcement paradigms. And then someone that's willing to lead those forward, someone that has done that in his career, led those forward, someone that has created community building, policing type policies and programming from the ground floor up. Without staff, with knowing front hand what it does to affect our officers, how it affects the people that are out there that we are keeping safe. So I understand those things. I understand how to use the data to do that. I know how to do it from the front line all the way up until to the executive level. So when I make decisions, my decisions will be made with the understanding that I've done that work and I understand how it works.
Thank you, Mr. Villalobos. I'm going to stick with you here and ask you the same question that I asked Sheriff Cutler for our third question, we were discussing the outsourcing of inmates in Hays County and ways that we could maybe try to prevent the population of our prison from getting to that point where we have to find other places for them. So I guess the question is how would you address that, and what do you feel are there programs that we could put in place to keep people to prevent people from having to be booked in the jail and spend time?
Well, of course. I've been a student of criminal justice since I've been into the field as a student, as a college student, research, as a graduate student, as someone that actually is employed and actually utilized those types of research into the field and protecting people. So one of the things that I always look at is, what do certain policies do to affect people negatively that we could do differently? So one of those things is obviously that in my research, and I came forward with that research, is in 2007, a statute was put into place, 2007 by Governor Rick Perry, to utilize cite and release in a very specific way. The statute outlined what the uses were for and how you're supposed to use them. The deficiency here is that employing it and actually applying what those statutes do out in the field and leading those by educating the public, by educating our officers on how to apply those particular statutes so that we can mitigate populations. My research also, as your chief of staff, has readdressed those particular things and helped formulate a plan to utilize it. We just have to have leadership that's willing to employ it, leadership that's willing to educate our other law enforcement partners on why we need to utilize those. And I can tell you, outside of just policies that affect many times many people that are frontline workers, people that are various different types of socioeconomic backgrounds, policies that are hardcore policies for violations bring people into jail unnecessarily. We do have a control out in front. We can work together with diversionary programs. The sheriff has talked about diversionary programs. This is not something that we would work with the district attorney's office. This is something that we would work with when we're talking about working with our probation department to actually employ these things to ensure that, number one, if you have your DA doing it, there are some ethical questions as far as representation for each client. We don't want to have a double standard there. We don't want to have a way that we're actually
Thank you, Mr.
doing that.
Villalobos. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I want to wrap back around with one more question before we get to the closing remarks. And Mr. Villalobos, you've had a chance to answer a couple here, so we'll shift back to Sheriff Cutler. Sheriff, how important is it to have a diverse police force in Hays County as the county has crept over 40% Hispanic? What's the importance for diversity on the force, and I guess specifically address the need for Spanish-speaking officers?
I think diversity is extremely important. You just said it, because the 40% you just mentioned. And I have a very diverse force, and it's very important because of people we deal with every day. And I've supported that. We recruit. Now, when we recruit, we're not out there recruiting specific people. We want everybody to come to work for us, regardless of their race. And we support that. But I do have a very diverse race, a lot of supervisors that are in Hispanics, and speaking Spanish, like you were talking about, that language, you got to have it. You need it, and we do. And I support diverse because it's something we need in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Cutler. Same question, Mr. Villalobos. Please address the diversity, how important it is in our county for our police force to have diversity, considering the ever-growing Hispanic and Spanish-speaking populations.
Well, not only is it important for the front line to have a force that represents the community that it serves, but it's also very important at the mid-level manager and at the command staff level as well, is that you want diversity in those particular areas because you want people to understand the lived experiences of various people living throughout our county. When you have people in those positions, they're formulating policy, they're writing policy, they're creating policy. And you want people at those levels to understand that if they create this policy, what are the unintended consequences to people of color, whether it's Latinos or otherwise, why it's important to ensure that when you make these policies, you're not creating a policy that's going to be further behind, that's going to create some issues for them, that's going to, over incarcerate certain individuals, or going to create some things just based on just pure culture. I think that policies and period need to be well-versed and well-perspective. They need to have a very diverse group that are actually formulating these items to ensure that we're providing the best service across the county and not just for specific people.
Okay, thank you so much to both of you for being here with us. Now we're gonna allow some time for closing statements, and we're gonna start with you, Mr. Villalobos again.
Sure. My entire career has been about building communities, empowering people to access government and engage the political process, humanizing law enforcement and promoting community engagement policies that educate and involve all citizens, create fair and working environment and promotional opportunities. I have a vision for the future. I will not use the office to belittle people. I will not violate the constitutional rights of all people. I represent the change of Hays County, but I also represent fairness. I also represent diverse perspective. I also represent the knowledge and the experience on creating a department that represents a diverse community. I also represent many people that have been provided a second chance in life, and I'm here because of that. And there are many different opportunities for us to do that for people in our community, to provide them a leg up and to empower them to live their lives in a free world, unhindered and scared to approach our law enforcement. My name is Alex Villalobos, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you so much, Mr. Villalobos. Now we'll continue and finish with you, Mr. Cutler. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. 2 words cover the race for Hays County Sheriff: experience and integrity. Experience, 46 years, 10 years as your sheriff with a proven record of success. Integrity, I got the highest integrity there is. I'm not on any Brady list. I never have been. I've got high integrity. There's a push in this country right now to rid agencies of bad law enforcement officers. Support that 100%. We don't need that. And I'm going to say one last thing. I want to go to my endorsements. See, you don't just you earn endorsements. You don't just, they don't hand them out to you. I've earned endorsements that I'm proud of, and I hold my head up high. Right there in Buda Police Department, full endorsement. Down the road, Kyle, full endorsement. Kyle Police Department, San Marcos Police Department, the Hays County law enforcement officers. All these are full endorsement. I've got every endorsement for law enforcement across Hays County because they want to keep integrity. They want to keep honesty in the sheriff's department, and I've proven to them. That's why I've earned those, though. I mean, all the way to your commissioner right there, Mark Jones, your constable, John Ellen, right there in Buda, all supporting me for re-election. And so I come to you with honesty and integrity, and I ask for your endorsement, but more so I ask for your vote. Early voting starts next week, 13th, and then November 3rd is election day. If you guys talk to me, I'll see you at the polls.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your comments. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our 2020 Buda Area Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. Again, I want to thank all of the candidates for Buda City Council and the Hays County Sheriff for participating tonight. Now, folks, it's up to you. Early voting begins on Tuesday, October 13th and concludes on October 30th. Election Day is November 3rd. Please visit our Buda Area Chamber of Commerce website for early voting and Election Day times and locations. If you applied for a ballot by mail, please complete the ballot as soon as possible and return to the Hays County Elections Office. All politics is local. So do your part, and this election season, please do what half the world wishes they could do, and vote. Thank you, and good night. JR?
Start that again. Thank you very much, Chairman Hatch, and I wanted to say especially thank you for all the folks who made this happen. We're actually doing this webinar out of downtown Buda over at the 606 Main Street. I want to thank Pauline Antone and Kevin Richardson and Stephanie Perez for being on the back end to make this thing happen. We hope to see more of these. One of the things that we appreciate about working together as a team, if you notice, we put this together, we've had to pivot, we've had to make some adjustments. Usually these type of things are held in person, but in this new world of COVID, we're making the adjustments. As the chamber is working for you all the time, we want to make sure if you're not involved with the Chamber of Commerce, there's the opportunity. If you're a business owner out there or a manager of a company who would like to become more involved, please visit our website, call our office. as the Chairman Hatch said, go out there, go to your polls, go to vote, visit our website, and we'll have all the information in polling places. And this thing will be has been recorded, and it'll be up soon so you can share it with everybody else. Thank you very much, and y'all be safe, mask up, take care of each other. Why? Because it's the Buda thing to do.